So, hi, friends. I am Corey Roberts. I am the owner of Words to Wellness, and I share information. Actually, I'm going to start to share information YouTube. I'm going to try my best to keep up with it, but you know me, it every time I post it only is from inspiration or something that I just kind of put together and simplified so then I can make it easy for you guys to understand because deep spiritual healing, deep, um, just emotional healing, working through physical trauma, working through emotional trauma. It takes a lot of work, and there's so many complex ideas on how it all comes together. And I'm here to kind of simplify it and make it as easy as possible of putting everything together. So, one of the things that I really wanted to talk about today is about inner child work and how to reparent. So, many of us, as we reflect our past and how we were raised by our dads, by our moms, there's a lot of different types of trauma, is what social media is calling it. And honestly, it is trauma because anytime that we have an imprint of an emotion that is stored and stuck within the body, that means that there's an unhealed emotion that is in the body. And if that's not addressed, that unhealed emotion within the cellular structure begins to build and build and build and later can turn into disease. So, this is why doing inner work, child work, and reparenting ourselves is so critical in this day and age in order to elevate ourselves to create the life that we want. So, for just a little bit of history of myself is that I started this about 20 years ago. I worked as a detox therapist doing colon hydrotherapy, gut health. And honestly, when I first started doing this, there wasn't even a talk about probiotics. That's how long ago I started doing all of this work. So, working deep within the cellular structures and the emotion of the gut, that has what has led me to where I am today. Okay, so let's go and dive deep. If you can hear, I have a little dog, I have a cat. I'm sure she'll come in and say hi. But it's all a part of it. They're just coming in to say hi because they love people. Well, actually, do they? I don't know. The cat does. Okay, so here we go. Inner child work. It's gotten kind of a bad rap lately because um, everybody can have different perspectives. Okay, so anytime that we look at anything on social media, you can find all ranges of information. And this is actually what's really important is because you can find an extreme over here, you can find an extreme over here. But what that's doing is because when you're watching all these different elements, it's truly you that has to go with inside and say, well, how does this make me feel? Do I relate to this? Do I relate to this? Do I relate to this? And you may relate to something at one point in time, and then maybe 6 months, a year later, you go back, you watch that video, and you again, and you're like, oh my gosh, that no longer serves me. Like I don't know why that would served a purpose at the time, but it's all stepping stones. Everything that you learn is stepping stones. So, how do we find our inner child? A lot of times people have a really hard time with understanding what an inner child is. The inner child is from when we were born to this present moment. Well, I would say inner child would be anywhere from when we were born to about 18, 20 years old, right? Because that's when we're still developing, we're getting our concepts about life, we're imprinting from our parents, we're imprinting from our friends, we're imprinting from movies, we're imprinting from music, like we're imprinting and absorbing all of it to identify who we are and how we're going to create our lives. Well, during that time, when there is abuse, when there's trauma, when there's neglect, when there's any kind of imbalance that happens, it's like there's an imprint, right? There's a stamp in all sorts of different parts of our lives. And these stamps are markers for emotional wounds that need to be readdressed. So, in this present moment, let's say that I had emotional neglect. And during that time, every time that I needed one of my parents because I was sick and I needed help, they were always working. So I had to take care of myself at home, making my own meals, um, trying to figure out how to take the pain away, maybe getting an ibuprofen and not knowing how much, right? So I had to take care of myself, which is very, very normal in the 70s, 80s time. But through that, there's definite times where I was so sick that I just needed a hug. Well, when a parent came home, they're so tired from work. I'm in physical pain from being sick. They just kind of walk by, don't address anything, don't make food, go take care of themselves. Does that mean that they did anything bad or wrong? No, it just means that we're all individuals and parents have to take care of themselves as well because they're providing income to take care of everything. And but ultimately, my emotional needs were not met. So when I get sick, sometimes I go back into those memories about, oh, I have to take care of myself. I don't want to take care of myself. I want somebody to take care of me. And, or I look to my external partner to be like, oh, now you're going to be the one to take care of me because I never had it in the past. Well, what that does is now we're projecting everything that we didn't receive onto our partners to say, you're the one that's going to do it. Well, that's a lot of pressure for our partners to have to fulfill a need that maybe one of the parents didn't need. So rather than projecting it onto our partners or onto our friends and people around us, what we have to do is we have to go back to those times and when we didn't experience that level of nourishment. And so when we are sick, now we reparent ourselves. So anytime that I start to feel like not feeling well, or I just need a day off to nourish myself and take care of myself, now the mothering role comes in. So when the pain starts, or when I'm overwhelmed, or maybe something happened within my life that a lot of emotions came up and I just need nurturing, but I don't want to project that onto anybody else. Now I have to take care of myself. So I just take that time and I ask myself, and I'm just very, very present. This is the first stage. One is becoming aware of that you're going to need something, right? So probably I start not feeling good. Maybe I start getting whiny or needy, or, kind of projecting to other people. Maybe I'm getting grumpy with other people. And as soon as that projection starts happening, that's my cue to being like, whoa, 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 where is this coming from? Right? Then I have to identify what am I actually really feeling? Well, I'm feeling physical pain because I'm not feeling good. I'm feeling unnourished because I've been giving to everybody else and I'm not receiving, whatever those things are. Then, if you want to take it deeper, and this is what's really important, is to be like, when have I experienced this other times in my life? This is number two. When have I experienced this in other times in my life? Not feeling nourished, not feeling seen, not feeling heard, not feeling cuddled or taken care of. Ooh, so then I go into that emotion, and the emotion, this is really important, highlight the emotion of the experience is what transports back to the time of that stamp of when trauma was imprinted. The emotion is what takes you back in time to that moment of when an imprint was imprinted. Okay. So I take the emotion of all the things that I am feeling, physical pain, feeling unnourished, feeling unloved, whatever that is, and I feel it so intensely, close my eyes and say, when did I feel this before? And I allow a memory to come up. That a memory comes up is that imprint. Allow that to surface, but couple different ways, right? Because there can be very intense trauma. And if you're doing this by yourself and all of a sudden something very big comes up, you have to have a support system to help navigate the emotions. So consult a person like me that can hold space for you to do this work, right? So it depends on the level of trauma, the level of emotions that are there, is if you can do this completely by yourself or if you need a support system, like a therapist, or if a friend or a partner can hold that space. Because sometimes, again, we project onto our partners that they have to be there as a therapist for us to hold that space. And really, that's not true, right? It's our job, our responsibility to find somebody to hold that space for us so we don't project and deplete our partners, right? So now I'm deciding, ooh, this is going to be a really big piece that's coming up. I remember how deep these emotions are. Now I'm really in it. Boom, I'm calling Corey, or I'm calling a therapist, or I'm calling somebody that is trained to be able to hold this space and help me navigate and move through these emotions. Or it's an emotion, it's a moment that, okay, I can be an observer of this without getting so congested into the emotion because I can remove myself and see. There's a difference between the two. When you can become the observer and observe the story as a story, now you're able to hold space for yourself rather than needing to call a therapist. But again, therapists are always there. This is what we are designed to do, is to hold that space. So it's your judgment. Okay. So when you have your eyes closed and you're re-observing a trauma, feel the emotion. Then since you're the observer, now you become the parent. You can become the father, you can become the mother, you can become the grandmother, however that feels like to you. You can be the guardian angel, whatever feels right for you, that you are in an empowered state of knowledge and wisdom and nourishment to be able to hold space for the little girl or the little boy that was experiencing an emotion, a deep, deep emotion that they couldn't process through, right? So for me, I really needed the nourishment of the feminine. So I, in meditation, in my imagination, is I become this beautiful, strong, feminine woman. And I see this little girl in pain that's sick on the couch and needs nourishment. So I imagine myself as this divine woman going into that scene and holding space for that little girl. And just like imagine, what would you say to a little girl? Not even what you would say to yourself, but if you saw a little girl sitting on the couch with 102 temperature, the pain, the sadness, whatever is going on for her, how would you handle her, right? You would probably go over, sit eye level with her and say, I see you. I'm here for you. How can I help you? And then you would just listen. Listen with your imagination. It doesn't have to be intuition. It doesn't have to be this whole spiritual thing. Use your imagination. What would that little girl, what would that little girl say or that little boy say? Oh, I'm just in so much pain. I just need a hug. Okay, can I give you that hug? And then you imagine yourself holding this little girl or this little boy and holding them and rocking them. And just rock that little girl or that little boy. Tell them that they're going to be okay. Tell them that they're safe. Tell them that you're going to be there holding their hand through this, that they're not alone. This is really important. Letting them know that they're not alone and that you love them so, so, so much. And one really important thing is when the little girl or the little boy is starting to communicate and wants the hug. Hold them until that little boy or little girl lets go of you. They have to let go of you first, because that means that they have filled the emotional trauma with love, nourishment, support, right? So you're reprogramming, because before the little girl was needing nourishment, a hug, to be seen, to be held. Now, all of a sudden, that little girl is receiving, I see you, I love you, I'm here for you, and I'm going to hold you until you feel safe. Every time we do this and we go back by using emotion and holding space for that little girl or little boy and listening to them, hearing them, valuing their words. And then at the very end, asking them, is there anything else that you need from me that I can provide for you? Every single time that I've ever experienced this with myself and with clients, that little boy or little girl needs a hug. As soon as they receive that, and then once they let go, you will witness that that little boy or that little girl goes from being sick and needing and deprived to all of a sudden full, energized, happy, bubbly, and you'll see them go off and go play. That's when you know that you have rewritten that story for that little girl or that little boy. And this is how you show up for yourself. And every time that you keep doing this and going back and rewriting all those imprints of emotions and provide nourishment and love in a divine feminine or divine masculine way of how you needed somebody to show up for you, that's when healing occurs. And then we become full, we become nourished, we become whole. So when we become that, we no longer project on anybody else that somebody else has to fulfill that for us, because they can't. They have to fulfill it for themselves, and you have to fulfill it for yourself. Anyway, I hope this helps. If you have any questions, please put it in the comments, send me a message, but I am here for you. And welcome to your journey of going back, doing childhood work, and rewriting, reprogramming, nourishing, and loving yourself in a totally different way.